Hello everyone, this is R.S. Miller at the endtimenews.org and today is September 20th, 2013. American bodies will be the only thing that returns home if U.S. attacks Iran. If the Americans for any reason embark on a foolish act against the Islamic Republic of Iran, certainly what they will witness won't be the return of U.S. warships, but the return of the American bodies to their countries, Fadavi said in Tehran on Wednesday. He underlined that Americans have admitted their weakness for confrontation against the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy in areas of vessels, mining operations, and coast-to-sea missiles, and see them as a grave threat and their weak point which cannot be obviated. Fadavi said that the reason behind the U.S. and its allies' cruel sanctions against Iran is the fact that they are sure about their weakness and failure if they dare to launch a military attack against Tehran. The IRGC is responsible for the security of the Persian Gulf where the U.S. warships are deployed. In 2008, Major General Yahya Rahim Safavi, former commander of the IRGC and the current military advisor to the supreme leader of the Islamic Revolution, declared that the responsibility for defending the Persian Gulf had been handed over to the IRGC. He warned that the IRGC would seal the strategic Strait of Hormuz in case the U.S. launches any attack on Iran's nuclear installations. In relevant remarks on Monday, Fadavi announced that the IRGC Navy plans to increase the speed of its missile launching and fully armed vessels to 80 knots. He said, high-speed vessels in the world enjoy a speed of about 35 knots, but the IRGC's high-speed vessels traverse at a speed of 60 knots, and we want to increase this maximum speed to 80 knots in our future plans. Anti-Israel resolution narrowly defeated. Israel bashing resolution backed by Iran and the Arab League would have exclusively targeted Israel for criticism. A proposed resolution by Arab states criticizing Israel's widely rumored atomic arsenal was narrowly defeated Friday at a gathering of the UN Nuclear Agency. Following a lively debate at the International Atomic Energy Agency's annual General Conference, the measure, supported by Iran, was defeated by 51 votes against and 43 in favor, with 32 abstentions. Israel is widely assumed to have nuclear weapons, but has never acknowledged it, and it is not a signatory to the landmark Treaty of the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. President Barack Obama said on Tuesday that Iran's new president Hassan Rouhani appears to want to open a dialogue with the United States and that he is willing to test whether this is the case. Obama's comment in an interview with Spanish-language network Telemundo was the latest indication the president would like to jump from the crisis over Syria's chemical weapons to a new search for a diplomatic deal to ensure Iran does not develop a nuclear weapon. Last weekend, Obama revealed he and Rouhani had exchanged letters about the U.S.-Iran standoff. Both leaders will be at the UN General Assembly in New York next week, although White House officials say there are no current plans for them to meet. There is an opportunity here for diplomacy, Obama said, and I hope the Iranians take advantage of it. The moderate mien of Iran's new president Hassan Rouhani has had its intended effect, even before nuclear dialogue began. President Barack Obama had only one demand on Tehran. Iran would have to demonstrate its own seriousness by agreement not to weaponize nuclear power, he said on Wednesday, September 18th. He thus took at his word Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who declared the day before, "We are against nuclear weapons, and when we say no one should have nuclear weapons, we definitely do not pursue it ourselves either." On Tuesday, Iranian President Hassan Rouhani praised President Barack Obama's approach as constructive and also vowed that his country would never develop nuclear weapons. The symmetry between the words from Washington and Tehran was perfect in content and timing, and not by chance. According to Debka files, Washington and Iranian sources disclosed that it was choreographed in advance. Obama and Khomeini have been exchanging secret messages through Sultan Qaboos bin Saeed Al Saeed of Oman, who visited Tehran in the last week of August and conferred with both Khomeini and Rouhani. In the last message carried to Tehran by Oman's defense minister, Saeed Badar, the U.S. president said that Rouhani's conciliatory gestures towards Washington needed to be backed up by an explicit pledge not to weaponize Iran's nuclear program. That pledge must come from the supreme leader in person and delivered publicly to Iran's most hawkish audience, the Revolutionary Guards chief. And indeed, Khomeini acted out his part Tuesday in front of the television cameras. Friends, I find it difficult to comprehend how President Obama and his administration could even consider placing the smallest iota of trust in the Iranian regime. Although Iran's new president Hassan Rouhani is being portrayed as more moderate than his predecessor Ahmadinejad, both are under the authority of the Ayatollah Ali Khomeini. The regime has repeatedly spewed out messages of hate towards the Jews and threatened to totally destroy the nation of Israel along with its people. This ideology is a common theme among those various groups the West likes to call radical, militant, or terrorist extremists. But what the U.S. and other Western nations don't seem to understand is that men like the Ayatollah Khomeini and Osama bin Laden, as well as many other Islamic factions, are not radicals as the West perceives it, but instead they are devoted followers of the Muslim faith, which in essence teaches them to hate the Jews. This theme of hatred for the Jews is common among dedicated Islamic believers. Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of the Lebanese political and paramilitary organization Hezbollah, has made the following statements concerning the Jews and the nation of Israel. They, speaking of the Jews, are occupiers who are raping the land and holy places. If they all gather in Israel, it will save us the trouble of going after them. These folks believe that the Quran is the holy word of Allah and that Muhammad is his holy prophet whom they follow without question. Although the West likes to view these people as extremists, in actuality, they are the true followers of the Quran. They read it, they believe it, and they attempt to live the life. Paraphrasing just a few examples of the true Islamic life, the Quran states that it is okay to lie, to be a deceiver, especially to one's enemies. It also states that Allah is the greatest deceiver of them all, and it even dares to say that all deception belongs completely to Allah. Another commandment that can be found in the Quran, and perhaps one of the most revealing of the true Islamic ideology, is this. It states that all Jews should be killed wherever they are found. Now don't get mad at me. It's in the Quran and you can read it for yourselves. The Palestinian school system teaches grade school-aged children to hate and kill the Jews using nursery rhyme style books. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but it states that a tree cries out to a child, "There's a Jew hiding behind me. Come and kill him." And then a stone cries out basically the same thing. This type of brainwashing on the young and the innocent is very much similar to how Adolf Hitler indoctrinated German children to be haters and killers of Jews during World War II. Now getting back to Iran, In February of 2012, the Ayatollah Khomeini made this statement: "Kill all Jews and annihilate Israel." Iran's Ayatollah laid out legal and religious justification for an attack on Israel. Conservative site Aleph has published a doctrine detailing why the destruction of the nation and the slaughter of all of its people would be legally and morally justified. The doctrine, first reported by WorldNet Daily, warned that the chances to remove the corrupting material of Israel must not be lost, and that it would only take 9 minutes to wipe it out. The article went on to say it was a jurisprudential justification for Iran's Islamic government to then take the helm. The article was written by Khomeini's strategy specialist and was being run on most state-owned conservative sites, indicating it has regime support. The crux of the dossier said Iran would be justified in launching a preemptive strike against Israel because of the threats the Jewish state's leaders are posing against its own nuclear facilities. And of course, the report didn't mention that the reason Israel threatened to strike Iran's nuclear facilities in the first place is due to Iran's complete and undeniable opposition to Israel's very existence. In August of 2012, Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said that he was confident that the fake Zionist regime will disappear from the landscape of geography. The light of hope will shine on the Palestinian issue, and this Islamic land will certainly be returned to the Palestinian nation. The Islamic land that the Ayatollah was referring to is not the two-state solution as desired by Western nations, but instead is the entire state of Israel. This is evidenced by multiple Arab maps of the Mediterranean coastal region showing the state of Palestine, and Israel is nowhere to be found. The Iranian Ayatollahs are not going to give up on their hopes to wipe out the Jews and destroy the nation of Israel. To do so would be to disobey the Quran, which states something to the effect of this: once it is Islamic land, it is always Islamic land, and that Muslims should do everything that is within their power to get it back and never give up. Any attempts by the international community to negotiate with Iran over its nuclear program will end up being nothing more than a delaying tactic controlled by the Iranian regime. The inept U.S. administration will be like a young puppy being led around on a leash, and in the end, the Ayatollahs will have their bomb. That is, unless Israel strikes out on their own. To think that the U.S. and friends can make peace between Israel and those Islamic nations whose only solution to their perceived Israeli problem is total annihilation of the state and the people is a bit naive, to say the least. The many belligerent threats coming from Iran and other Islamic entities clearly state what their overall goals are, and it would be downright foolish to try to negotiate with such madmen. And if the United States continues not seeing the truth about Islam, enthusiastically grasping at straws of pseudo-peace, yet apparently impervious to the dangers of meddling in the affairs of the Middle East, and especially those of Israel, then we should expect nothing but the worst to come out of it. Pressuring the nation of Israel to make peace with its mortal enemies is in actuality fighting against the will of God, and there will certainly be a price to pay. In Zachariah chapter 12, the word of the Lord states, "Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of drunkenness to all the surrounding peoples, when they lay siege against Judah and Jerusalem, and it shall happen in that day that I will make Jerusalem a very heavy stone for all peoples. All who would heave it away will surely be cut into pieces, though all nations on the earth are gathered against it." In chapter 14, In verse 2, the Lord says, "For I will gather all the nations to battle against Jerusalem." This is the final siege of Jerusalem. Continuing, the city shall be taken, the houses rifled, and the women ravaged. Half of the city shall go into captivity, but the remnant of the people shall not be cut off from the city. And then we have the second coming of the Messiah. Then the Lord will go forth and fight against those nations as he fights in the day of battle. And in that day his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall split in two from east to west. And this next verse is why the United States should not be pressuring Israel to make peace with their enemies. "And this shall be the plague with which the Lord will strike all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall dissolve while they stand on their feet. Their eyes shall dissolve in their sockets, and their tongues shall dissolve in their mouths." That is the description of a nuclear blast. No matter how this current situation in the Middle East turns out, whether it's all-out war or peace, the peace will not be permanent until Jesus Christ returns. But whatever it is certainly an indication that we are living in the last days, and the Lord's return is not far from us now. Are you saved? Follow the link in the box below and pray the prayer of salvation with a sincere heart, and you will be saved. May God bless you.